Good morning, dear colleagues. So let's start our work. My name is Marko Kushkin, and we, together with Vladimir Solovyov, are going to be co-moderator of our today's work. So the topic of our expert discussion is the systemic programs of transformation of companies and the role of training. And we wanted to discuss the contribution of training into the programs of transformation of modern companies. And I think we have a very good expert panel. Allow me to introduce all the participants. Let's start from the window. Natalia Ionova, Vice President, HR, Yevraz Group. Natalia Yamshikova, Director of Corporate, University of Sibur. Andrea Fonin, Head of Corporate University of the Bank of Russia. And we are going to be joined by Ruslan Visterovsky, Deputy Chairman of Central Bank, Tatiana Terentьева, HR Director, Rosatom, then Marina Petrova, LBG founder, Marko Kushkin, Training Boutique, and Vladimir Solovyov, Evrico. And we have Marina Pochinok, expert in change management. And we hope to be joined by Natalia Tolstaya from Emploi. So this is the composition of our the membership of our panel. So we will have three parts, not to have very long statements. We would rather suggest that the expert would answer three questions. First, what can the training system do in the programs? And what is the composition of the effective training and development programs for transformation? What works and what doesn't? And the third part will be about what to do with partners in those training programs, what kind of partners we need, and what kind of partners our respected colleagues attract. And we are going to split our roles with Vladimir. Vladimir will be in charge of interactive discussion, and we are very hopeful of your involvement. Good morning. Thank you very much, dear friends. So let's use we wanted to use the digital methods of interactive Mentimeter program. Please take your smartphones. Let's vote a little bit before the start of our discussions. Go to the website of menti.com. So, and you will see the instructions, menti.com. And the password, here's the instruction, it's 688415. And if you do it right, you will have the question, your level of energy and mood. So please vote, and we will see how you've managed to do it. Well, if it's about 0, you are in a coma. Up to 10, then you are very restless. And the mood from sad up to happiness. Well, let's look as to what kind of mood you are in the morning. Press the button Submit and please vote. Well, I think we have about 35 people here. Let's see what we'll have as a result. Well, please, all in the Presidium, colleagues in the Presidium, please vote too. So, Marina, okay, let's look at the results. Well, 7.3 is the average. And some people do have 10 and some 9, so it's great. We have great chances to have a good discussion. 13 people have 9 to 10 scores. Okay, now let's discuss business. We are talking about transformation projects, and we're going to discuss a question as to what associations you have with this word, transformation. I mean, certain corporate transformation is what we mean. Totally, you can just deliver your association. You will have three fields there. The shorter you write in the field, the more chances you will have that there will be some similar fields, and you will see the most frequently used word, which is going to be italicized. You can write down a phrase, but we will be able to read it because this plasma has a very good resolution. So you'd better write something very commonly used. Well, if you put it down, then 3, and then you can write something else. Well, we decided not to suggest 5, not to torture you with all those inventions. What kind of associations do you have with the word transformation? Well, let's look at, let's see what we have. It's changes. Well, it's not artificial intelligence, so that's why it's not the same. So it's improvement is what I can see here. Culture of development, it's life. Microphone not used, microphone not used. So it's the balance of improvement and transformation in education. He has to use a microphone. Sorry, he has to use a microphone. Microphone, please. Microphone.
Да,
So this question is about the logic of consistency. Well, it's sort of transformation, agile, and you will sort of adjust. Well, okay, let's see how they were implemented in the plan, in the baseline. Well, generally, just to have a look at the navigation, at moving aim. Let's look at transformation projects from your practice. So let's see what we have here. 3 lucky people here with 9 and 10 as a score, and 4 more with 8. 7 people put 8, 9, and 10 scores here. So the average is 6.3, and we have 7 more people who put 3 and 4. And we don't have any extremes here. So we can say that it's shifted a little bit to the right. It's 6, not 5. Okay, let's start our discussion then. Colleagues, thank you very much for this warming up. And the first topic is what those development and training programs do for the systemic transformation programs. Let's give the floor to Andrei Fonin. He's Director of Corporate University of and Bank of Russia. He will share his practice in the central banks. Good morning, colleagues. Thank you very much. Well, as Mark already said, I am made a presentation using the time I have. I will try to make it. So first, about the results of the research that was undertook by the SLF Executive for Corporate Association of Director of Corporate Universities, quite a well-known association of global corporations, which is devoted to the issues of transformation, and one part of it about training and development role in the transformation process. And I will share with you as to what kind of initiatives we are implementing in the Bank of Russia to support the transformation that's underway in the Bank of Russia now and in the financial sector in general. So I would like to apologize that the slides are all in English because I translated only the headlines. But since we have two official languages, I think it will be quite clear. The research was done in September 2018, 75 major corporations. About half of them are in the Forbes 100. They're very big, major companies. Geographically, it's 86% of companies operating globally. And by the number of headcount, 1/4 of them, about more than 100,000, and the rest you can see the breakdown. Very interesting representative selection. And the CEOs of companies and the directors, and HR vice presidents were involved in this research. Several questions asked. Some of them I will discuss in more detail. The question about how the top managements feel the involvement in the transformation process of different functions. Well, of course, IT, HR, and strategists are number ones. And when we were discussing the results with the participants, the question was raised as to those who are working with customers. Strange it may seem, they are not very much involved. The customers themselves are marketing and sales. So as for the fact as to how they assess the demand to transform, the question was split into three types of transformation. Strategic, which is a new strategy, new business models. Organizational transformation, which is reshuffling of and re-engineering of business process, and cultural transformation when the values and behaviors change and the way people work in the company. So the demand of cultural transformation was seen in 80% of respondents, of those who were participating, and strategic and organizational covered 2/3. Interestingly, the answer to the question as to how you assess the capability of your company to meet the challenges of the transformation, the cultural transformation covered only 2% of respondents who said that really they are capable and they are furnished with all the skills and knowledge to meet the challenges of cultural transformation, because it's the most complicated one. And the difference and the gaps you can see here between the demand and the capabilities of the companies to really cope with strategic, cultural, and organizational transformation. And you can see the gap between the demand and capabilities in cultural transformation. Quite curious conclusions were made. As to how the transformation should be implemented or organized, well, traditionally, half of the respondents said it's the bottom up, and 13% up from top to bottom, and about 40% is that it is horizontal will be more effective for the whole company right away. Interestingly, also as to how effectively they cope and manage their change processes with different approaches, top down, bottom to up. And while the top-down looks to be more effective because, only 3% use the horizontal approach, and they answered that they're quite effective in this approach. And you can see, respectively, here the difference between the efficiency of those approaches and their capabilities to really cope and manage the processes. Also interesting is the fact that more than half of the companies have special functions in charge of organizational changes management. They call it differently, and I did not include all the results of the research. There were different answers as to who is in charge, who owns this process, and the name of the department. And this question is directly related to our today's discussion about the role of training and development in transformation of the organization. There were several options of answers here, and I saw the results of similar research undertaken in 2016, 2 years prior. And the first question, when L&D was the leader of the process, was covered 0%. Now we can see 7%. And 1/3 of respondents approximately said that the function of training and development is equally leading in the process, along with other functions, which is quite a serious improvement, very serious trend we can see. And two other answers are more traditional, either support functions or supporting functions, or just conducting or holding some training programs to create all those new skills and knowledge. So around it well, I think that's how we can discuss it today, something around that, where the priorities shift to, and how important the role of the training and development in the transformation process, and what kind of role it should play. Several words about Andrei, just a couple of words to interfere. Well, it's quite fresh. It's September 2017. Did you have any insights and some revelations from this research? Were you surprised with something? Well, indeed, the role of training and development, this function is growing. And in many major corporations, and there were examples of very big companies, multinationals, now the training directors are part of board of directors, and they are involved in the discussion of the key decisions, strategic decisions, and in some cases they are even change leaders, leaders of change. So the project office is created on the basis of corporate universities. Thank you. I think that's the biggest insight for me. Well, as to what's going on in the Bank of Russia and in the financial sector in general, we have very serious transformation underway. And several years ago, we became a mega regulator, which determined, of course, the vector of our further development. And the requirements were changed. New challenges, external, internal, geopolitical, occurred, and economic, and serious transformation processes started. On the slide, you can see the key areas in HR, and I hope Ruslan will join us later to give you more details as the initiator of the process 3 years ago. And out of what we've managed to accomplish already, let's look at the next slide, which shows and visualizes our mission and vision of strategic goals and values. And we are proud to be quite candid of having one of the 4 components is the first-class qualified staff. That's quite a great job we did inside the bank, and which set the priorities for us and determines the role of the HR and in the Bank of Russia's activities in general. The university, well, formally as a structural department, it was created only this year, and a little bit more than 6 months. But as a brand, it exists for 18 months, and it is being transformed now quite seriously. We have 3 key areas. As the majority of corporate universities, we of course are working at improving the competences of our own staff, which is about 50,000 people in the central headquarters and territorial subsidiaries. We have quite a big number of projects related to external contour, financial markets, financial literacy projects, and several very important projects of law enforcement authorities in investigating financial things, and a big chunk of work which is beyond the HR block, which is more about improvement of the Bank of Russia image and financial system in general in the global system, and interacting with other banks, institutional banks. And we are having a lot of conferences, conducting and seminars, invite colleagues from other central banks and send our staff to other national banks for internships. Thus, we improve our own expertise and our weight in the global financial system. And just a couple of words about some of our initiatives to support changes. Two to mention. It's a leadership program we launched last year, a module program about 1,300 middle management up to 2022. Now we have 200 people, which are being trained, and more than 500 will start shortly. We did not invent anything new here. Quite a standard approach, which is used in major organizations for the people to speak the same language, to understand the changes and transformation which is underway in the company, to understand the challenges we face, to extend their horizons, because for a long time we've been a very closed organizations, and in the framework of all those programs we have a lot of external experts and speakers that we invite to look as to what's going on outside. And the second project, which is called the Team of Changes, the project which started last year also, we selected 112 people, quite serious selection It's the change agents that are implementing projects in the regions and the central headquarters. They have their own sponsors, those projects, functional, administrative, and those are the people. Well, in major organizations, I've been working about more than 15 years, and I've never seen more motivated people, because they are all full of desires of changing things, and that's why we, of course, are using this for the benefit, because the people are doing their projects. We are going to finish the pilot projects, and then we will include the people in the larger scale transformational projects. And the team and the change agents will be extended. So that was my attempt to cover the slot of time. So thank you very much. We have an opportunity to ask questions, but we're not going to do it after every speaker. But well, you can, in our voting system, we have this this kind of field. You can ask a question and press submit. Marin, show how it all looks. If, for instance, if there are some questions, because from time to time we will look up those questions and maybe read out some of them and give an opportunity for an answer. So here is, this is how it's going to look. There was a question. Andrei, we will not give you an opportunity to answer the question because we will have to move on. Thank you very much, Andrei, colleagues. That was the only planned statement, but the rest is going to be just live discussion. We're going to have 3 rounds. The first round as to what it can or it cannot do with the transformation system, and some examples from the practical work of your organizations, what you can and what you cannot do.
So I would like to think it over and say that transformation and training, they overlap. You do not do training just for the sake of it and transformation for the sake of transformation. It doesn't make sense. All these things are actually covered by the business tasks, and when we decide what we want to achieve and where we want to go, the better cooperation we will have. And I also think that training cannot go without real projects, real business. So there should be a territory where people work together. And if we say that, for instance, in Yevraz is metallurgy or holding, and our task is to change the roles of leaders now, and what brings people together, and how we actually structure our transformation programs. We have common activities underpinning them. So we have practices for the leaders, and they use it, and vice presidents and the top management of the company, they start discussions what we can have from the standard practices, what goes well, and we also look at intermodal work, not lectures or workshop, but it is practical cases mostly in small working groups that we have. And we have our providers who support us in this work. So again, where we have mutual tasks, and when we know where we want to get, that's when we can have a good training program that can support transformation. It is a wider notion because it changes business processes, it brings in new schemes, new algorithms and processes, and trainings are preparing people, and then new algorithms come in, and we try to test them, try and test the current practices, the new practices, and this creates the common language for us. And another important point is that, Mark, you had a question. Where are the successful training programs? What are they? Successful business training programs for me is programs where not only participants grow and develop, but we as team and my HR people and the providers change. So if everyone has takeaways from a program, then this is a successful program indeed. So continuing and following Natalia's ideas, it's great that we agree in these points. I entirely agree. I think that transformation is a wider thing, and just training for the sake of it, it doesn't make sense. And it should work with the tasks of the business. If the business doesn't have an understanding, of course, on the top level, if they do not have clear-cut expectations, what they want from their HR department, what new competences and knowledge they want, yes, we can go one step forward and offer things. Probably we can do this or that. But the most important thing is that training should not go just for the sake of it. And Rosatom, in this sense, I put 8 in terms of successfulness of transformation. When I joined the company in 2011, Rosatom of that time and Rosatom today are two different companies, corporations, and I think that and I support Natalia Mshikova in what she says. This is a standing goal that goes forward. And looking at the targets we had in 2011, I think transformation was a success for us. And in this sense, it all started with the top managers team, because we can say a lot and start from the bottom, but employees look at what the top managers really do. Not just say, but do. What things they do, how they change, how their decision-making process change. So, how it changes. And this process and various new elements of the system of management without real changes in processes and other things. Again, let's take the HR decision-making process. Nothing can happen if we do not actually change the system of appointment of the top management. Previously the appointment decision-making was an unclear process. Now it is a transparent process, and the results are much higher, and people are satisfied. They understand what happens. Previously, we had research on involvement, and for us it was a very important piece of feedback because we needed to change ourselves. So we had factors like the level of confidence in the top management. It was quite low, 35%, but now the figure is 70%. But it didn't just grow by itself. This means a huge transformation in the top management team. And factor number 2, this career is even better than the level of benchmark. The HR pool appointments for the top managers' positions is 80%. We prepared people for this, and people discussed various projects together. This means new language, new understanding, what we do, why we do it, and the process of involvement of managers, leaders from the top teams into these discussions is up to 80%. They set goals, they accept the projects, because we would never be successful in during HR committees. Doing the appointments, we as HR, yes, we select people and then we offer them. If top managers do not know who these people are and how they implement their projects, and if they never met them as curators, nothing would have happened like this. This experience of sharing things and working together, it changes behavior and understanding of the managers and the leaders, and they change their behavior, model of behavior automatically. They are scaling up and they are cascading new processes of changes from top to bottom. And of course, things go faster now in the corporation, despite the fact that we are a company of 250,000 people. We have discussions and we see that without changes, you cannot change your environment. Digitalization. Many people say that digitalization is important transformation for the corporation. We spent a year together with our top management team just to clarify what digital transformation means for us. And you cannot just say that if we just repeat this thing that digitalization is important, that's one thing, but we should change ourselves. And one of the main priorities of transformation is internal changes of our business processes. Internally, we should go digital. We should get digital. Training people, we cannot ask for new digital products from them if our internal processes are not aligned. So one of our projects is to make our internal environment more digitalized, more convenient, more service-like for our employees. And when they see that we are turning our face to them, because they become clients in this process, in this new business model. And of course, transforming and changing the processes, we change behavior and we support people and we tell them what we want from them, and we give them new skills and new knowledge and understanding. Just a short question. You say 2011, now Rosatom is different. And the role of the top management is huge, absolutely. But did they become the customers of the whole process from the beginning? I am lucky enough in my practice. I always see that the first person, the top person, is a very good client, a very wise client in the process, understanding that involvement of the top team and the employees, and understanding of the fact what we really need to get at the end. This is a real advantage. If you have it, that's great. But even if you don't have it, you can turn them into clients. During the process, you can make your leader a client of the process and help him answer the questions together with you and try and find answers. And that's okay. And the more common search, the more common activities you make, the better the results are and the impact. And I was amazed, I was astonished by what I see now. People sometimes say that it's so bad top managers do not participate in the training programs and so on. It means that you didn't communicate it well enough. I do not have a problem like that now. And on our team, all deputies have various programs, but a couple of years ago when we started, I understand that we're pressed of time, but all these mentoring and all those things around, no one understood what it really was all about. But now it's a normal practice for the leaders, for the deputies. It is bad style not to have a mentor. They all do have mentors. They become mentors, and they start this model of behavior. And that's when we have it in the HR pool. People also become mentors because they also have their own mentors. So they show proper models of behavior. They show what they do as mentors, and this widens our community of a new model of behavior for leaders in the company. And for me, it was a huge surprise. One of my favorite, not projects, but it's our routine life now. World Skills Movement. When they ask us, how can you, from year after year, How can you make these team achievements? How can you show such good results every year? And I also was astonished when a welder person became a millionaire, and he was asked, "Is it possible? How did you achieve that? What will you do with this million?" And this welding specialist, no one prepared him for this question, but he said, "I am from Rosatom, that's why." I realized at that point of time that this transformation has happened. It is level 3 of the organization, those who work in the construction area. That's very important. He said, "I work for Rosatom, that's why." So it is really very valuable. We see that we change people's minds, and the professional community, what we see today, they become a more powerful, a stronger driving force for changes in the company. When the professional community is getting together, they start to change and transform their area, their competences, and they get together by competences, not professions. We have mechatronics competition, competence. There is no profession like that, and they get together, they transform things, they start various programs on their own. You just can help them and give them some methodology. They go to universities, to training institutions, and they become leaders. And when you start a mechanism like that, and when it goes to the professional community, they start to change their environment around them. And our task is to help them and assist them, and just give them everything to go in the right direction. Thank you very much. Please. Thank you very much, colleagues. Good morning. Thank you very much, Andrei, for a very interesting analysis. And I want to illustrate the ideas I take away from this panel is that, of course, development is about the question why. In Sibur, organization strategy and the strategy of development of the corporate university is covered by functional strategies, long-term strategies for development of the key functions. So we did not have it as separate matters. If we speak about what criteria we have to measure what happens in our HR activities, for us it is, first of all, number one, it is the fact that we do not have project offices when we implement any change processes. In production system, we had an evolution. When a transformation starts, the first thing they usually do is to set up a project office where experts sit, experts in this area. I think the best thing to have in a company is when any changes, now we have digitalization process underway, digitalization of the business, and the experts come from the line activities. That's completely different of the energy and will of the leadership and the preparedness of the environment. When I'm speaking about the environment, I'm not only talking about the internal perimeter, and colleagues already mentioned that. This is more than that. If you want to have a sustainable process of large changes, you take the perimeter of your clients and suppliers and potential partners, especially in the regions of your penetration, and that's where our colleagues from other countries also operate quite actively. So this is the indicator of the role of development and training, because it is clear for some time now, and Mr. Konov, he always says that we want to become a trendy industrial digital company which is interesting and attractive for people not only from Petrochem but people from Yandex and Google. So we want to become interesting for them in our digital initiatives. But this is not only about knowledge. This is about the attractiveness of internal environment and your culture. And it is also about the capability of the company to take such people from the market and involve them very quickly and take the best from them, not to push them away. And for the employees internally in the company, it is important to change quickly and change the processes. You know, one of the indicators of all our efforts for development of people is an ability to change business processes for such capital-intensive companies as us, Yevraz, Sibur, Rosatom. You understand what it means for us to change things. It is not like FMCG sector where you can change large processes quite quickly. So for us, it is also an indicator of what it is all about to train people in Sibur. Let me record and articulate the main points again. So, training and development and education just part of transformation progress. The main question is why, and also the factor of environment. These are the main 3 points of the first part of the discussion, and the importance of the top team involvement. But this is about the second part of our discussion. Any questions from you? Yes, a couple of questions from me. Just a very quick Q&A session. Just 30 seconds for your answers. What's the role of corporate culture in the digital transformation? You know, digital transformations are underway everywhere. The preparedness of the environment, I think, the preparedness to take the changes. Natalia, Tatiana, Andrei? Well, the research shows that obviously environment should be capable of changing quickly and adapt quickly. So the culture is the basic thing here. And I would like to add something important. We touched upon a lot of things now, but it is very important that the function of education, of trainings, is also changing constantly. If it is just boring lectures we got used to, it will be not very much attracting for people, not effective, not interesting, and that's quite obvious. That's why the function of L&D should become trendy and interesting and attractive, and to create this habit in people to change and be and learn new things. If they do not want it, then our environment is not good enough. So, colleagues, let's move on to the second question. You see questions just in front of you, and you can put your answers into your presentation. So next round, let's share life hacks, the instruments of transformation programs in L&D that you take as your innovation, your own practice. What good things you have, effective things you have, or something that was ineffective. You tried it, but you understand that it's a bit too early, or you think that something should not be used in transformation programs at all. So please, what's your take? But the role of top teams is quite obvious. But yes, role model is important. What else? Colleagues, we focus not only on transformation programs, key factors of success of transformation programs. It's a different discussion, but the role of development in the success of such programs. Let me start. I think that it is very important when we were saying that we first discuss the task and the goal, and we think about the results, and then we think about the territories, specific projects, what we want to change. And we tackle the tasks that cannot be tackled in the operations activities. For instance, top 300 program for our workshops, directors and mines directors. So we want to turn them from technical directors into those who are in charge of the cost chain of their activity, those who are in charge of their people, who are in charge of culture changing in HSE. So we agreed that a good program result is a change transformed leaders, and then their activities are split into a couple of blocks, and we decide what we want them to do. in these blocks and how the process should change for this. And a success for us was not only the fact that we involved the teams, but we started to define our own practices of management. And we didn't just look at the textbooks on management and things like that, but we looked at our real life. We realized that the good understanding of technological processes is our strength, and we are able to get into the depth of a question, and we respond very quickly, we adapt very quickly, and we can do things with lack of resources. Because not very marginal, not very high profitability in the holding we see now. That's why it's hard to, allocate huge budgets for development and trainings. And within the framework of Top 300 program, an important point for us was cooperation with Training Boutique and the intermodal assistance for our directors in business constructions. What is important in involvement? There are no real answers at the beginning, and we look at the best practices, and people share, what do you do, why do you do it like this? So the discussion starts, and I should say that these business construction sites and cooperation in discussions of specific cases, what do you do with your costs, what makes you more effective, and why 95% of your appointments are successful and mine are not. And when they have specific cases and people share with each other, and not trainers or smart top managers. No, people just talk to each other and discuss things, and for us that is a huge step forward. And again, together with our people, we write down our own management practices, standard management practices that are relevant for our business life. And I think this is the point of successful training programs. They're fine-tuning them and tuning them to the point of expectations of the company. Colleagues, please. Ruslan Visterovsky, Deputy Head of the Central Bank, has joined us, and we are now talking about instruments of development that help the programs of transformation. The role of top managers, we've already covered it. Now we are talking about supporting programs. So let me contribute. First, very important thing from our experience. Start with a small project. Just try and test it. If the result is good, anyway, you will have to fine-tune it in the future. Don't just start with the large things immediately. Do not try and cover a large area from the beginning and try to instill something new. Be agile. Make a small project. If it is successful, then you scale it up and cover more area with it. So that's number one. First of all, you will have quick results. After this, people will believe in what you do, and they will start to cascade it. And L&D functions should also change very dramatically. According to the results, it's also our novelty. I guess I've never seen it in the market anywhere else. In Rosatom, starting 2012, we have a separate conference of director generals and HR directors, managing directors and HR directors conference for discussion on the results of the business and also formulation for the priorities and the task for HR department. And after the results of the recent conference we had last year, we realize that we go along the global trend. The three priorities we have, they all call for meaningful impact and involvement of L&D function to quickly develop competences. In order to quickly develop competences in our scale, we, of course, we have to be very active in implementing various types of
of such massive formats like online, remote, mobile application. So in this sense, the digital solutions are becoming more and more efficient, and those numbers are not just digitalization. It's something that the people can really see, and this helps them in their own personal development. That's number one. Number two, priority is to train leaders at all the levels. Our professional community and our recent movement leaders supporting the changes, which was born independently, where the top managers can communicate with the youth. And they form their cross-divisional teams. And in this respect, we are talking not about individual, but team efficiency. And number three is to learn how to work in new conditions. That's what we made up with the business, where the main center is our customer, our employee, and our objective is to create maximally comfortable conditions to implement their potential for them to spend less time for administrative work, and thus our internal HR process will be rearranged for them not to be sent for training once a year, but the recent trend, and it's learning nuggets. So that's used everywhere, every day, 5 to 10 minutes every day, a short video, or to listen to some talks. Every day you open up a video, and that's making his habit to read for something for 5 to 10 minutes. So, and thus they will collect 2 hours a week, but that's their environment. Because if, for instance, you go for fitness, it's becoming very useful and easy for you, and it's easy to allocate some time. So, yes, thank you very much, Tatiana. I would like to add, when we started the conferences, the directors who came there to participate, they were just like passengers, just looking from outside what's going on. And now it is transformed. It really has transformed. Yes, we did discuss it, and I want to say about partners. Of course, needless to say, without partners, many things would have been impossible. We have Vladimir Solovyov now, and I think that he almost has become our employee, because he arranges and conducts all our sessions, and that's very important indeed, because when a partner, a provider, understands the specifics of the company well. When it's just some distant examples, unrelated examples, people treat it very skeptically. But when the partner really understands the business and the way it works, and when he quotes examples very specific of what's going on inside, for instance, our team, could it become number one without Madeleine Baturina, but she's our player, and she is an employee of Vladimir. But Vladlen, he is as if he is our employee, and we reaches the goal. That's very important, this penetration of providers into the essence of what the company is doing. Thank you very much, Natasha. You're welcome. Well, first of all, I can see interesting comments here is to talk about transformation for SME business, and there's quite competitive field. Indeed, there might be an illusion that since there are big companies represented here, and since we are outside the competitive field, but looking at our products, trust me, whatever I'm going to talk about now, our lessons of transformation and what works in one city doesn't in another. It's exactly because the sales markets and the level of competition is very different everywhere. In this sense, we are as separate business units, and I think we are in the same conditions as SME business, which is involved in production. My lessons, and I call them transformation chips, since I was one of the co-authors of the transformation system of Sibur, and I introduced myself some major organizational transformations in the company. And they are the life hacks that allow us to reduce the transformation time. So the first leaders train leaders. That means that when we start changes in a specific factory or a function, everything should be done in co-authorship with line management. That's well, a story. Now let's invent something and then tell people how to do it. It just doesn't work because the speed is now different, and you have to fine-tune it very fast. And the colleagues today mentioned the agile logic, well, minimal viable product. So you create semi-product very fast, and you can do it only when you have feedback of those who are going to be users of the product and or customers of the product, and then you fine-tune in your work. Second, and Natasha mentioned it already, the workshop on management practices. A huge resource format with very short, allows you to reduce everything unneeded and keep only the quintessential experience with all those lessons learned for you to be able to furnish the managers of other functions and departments. That's the key role of development and training, is to create reflecting platforms where we can we can get together very fast, discuss, and the environment where you're not afraid of talking about mistakes and not engaged in wishful thinking, and you're not afraid of making mistakes. The companies with sustainable business processes, that's one of the biggest challenges, not to be afraid of talking about your mistakes and to rearrange things quickly, and to also those learning nuggets, those short formats of training, which really provide the knowledge, the specific knowledge needed in the transformational changes. That's the very important thing. And we use a lot in our factory such format as the ideology about, and then you dialogues about when you talk about changing culture, the digitalization, when you discuss about the role and place of yourself and how you have changed yourself. And very important is that number one role is not of the expert from training or development or provider partner, but the line manager who is trained and helped as to how he's going to cascade it down to his team. Then they buy it because they understand why they need the story and what's in store for him. Thank you. Well, colleagues have mentioned a lot, but the real projects, that's indeed what works, that should be included into the big module projects when people thus will have an opportunity to get specific results. Pilot projects, Tatiana, I would support her in saying that some large-scale transformation projects, if you start, well, if there is an opportunity to start with a pilot to have a success story, to scale it and cascade it down for the potential participants of the project. And we're also trying in big module programs to make participants involved, even if it is physical sessions, and there's professional community, and we develop this element when people perform some cases and they talk to each other, they communicate. And so far, we do have some difficulties in cross-national, in horizontal communications, and we're solving it now. We're working at it. Workshops on management practices also are used quite actively. It works well, and leaders train leaders. That's what we do in all the programs, and practically all our managers speak up, and they are planned for their presentation. So we're going to cascade this experience programs down to other level programs. And those technologies, as was mentioned, of course, this function should be changed, and it is changing. If we don't change it to tailor-made organizational requirements, that would be very difficult for you to meet the challenges that were mentioned in the first part of our discussion. So using the technologies may be very simple, but still, practically, we are in many programs reject the handout materials because we use our devices to initiate their communication with the speaker and among themselves and all presentation materials. So clear enough, it's the safety or security issues, but we solve them. Well, for us, the university is a transformation center of the Bank of Russia, and we are actively involved in the process for the whole year, and the mission and the goals and values of the bank have been created there, and all the strat sessions happen there, and the bank is changing, and that's very important. And when we did identify the philosophy and the status of the company and the feeling of all those things, it's not just to transfer knowledge, and that's a platform for many, many interesting stories for external and internal contour. Whatever we do is does affect the market, and so we invest a lot into training the external contour, starting from prosecutors and judges for them to make the right decisions in financial investigations. A big project we have now in financial literacy. And for us, well, those are the two important topics. For the people not to borrow money at 600 interest, and financial access or accessibility. Well, the colleagues, as the colleagues said, the future is already here, but not distributed evenly. So, for instance, there are different cities very far away, so we have to find the right balance and the right solutions in the framework of the university. Well, we make the business decisions which will allow the people to be provided good financial services. And there were ideas, for instance, to get cash in trade outlets. Well, there's no cash machines, but still you will be able to get some cash, to use NTV Plus and some other facilities, to use their channels to get the financial services. Those are the innovations and novelties that will allow us to make those services more comfortable and convenient. So the university, in our case, is a key element of transformation. The bank has a lot of components and re-engineering of all business processes. We now have compiled a new business functions. We used to have 100,000, now it's 143, so it's sort of becoming more compact well, it's important for all and not only for the panel of financial things. So we invest a lot. New regulation, new legislation, new formats, electronic reporting to get rid of all the paper. Because as they say that if you do it in paper, you will need a truck every day. So those are our goals to in electronic document flow with external control, which is quite a high level. And now I would say that new technologies are coming down, and I'm very happy to see the best representatives of the industry in transformation and business development and training. And we are actively cooperating with many of you, practically with all those present here, because indeed our bank is a little bit lagging behind from the dynamics, and we have to catch up all those things. And I'm sure that in some time we are going to become the role model for many things. Thank you very much. And I have a thought now, which came to me now, that if it is difficult for you, if you face some resistance, or that means that you are going in the right direction. If everything goes easy, nice and easy, that means that nobody needs it. That's what I realize now. That is, and we have to say thank you to our colleagues for that, because those who start discussing, because they provide you signals as to what to do, and you start changing things. And well, there was a change that has occurred. Well, it's the Project Horizon, and we have day of development when everybody gets together. We invite some interesting speakers, and we also have business breakfasts from HR director when we, depending on topics. Or maybe in procurement, business breakfast in procurement, where procurement director discussing with the users as to how convenient it is to work with him. And he explains and he forms this environment. So, well, I didn't say much about that, but of course, we are doing it thanks to our Center of Developments and all the new products. And I would say that the Academy and well, several centers and they were preparing our team for the world skills. That's quite a serious responsibility, but that's also recognition of the best practices of ours. We're going to do it together. Colleagues, allow our experts who did not find place on the panel to speak up. Irina, you're welcome. Colleagues, when you were saying about the associations with the word transformation, you mentioned pain, resistance, and indeed, no projects of change can happen without it. Resistance and pain, that's what all directors at all managers at all levels do face, especially those who manage workers. And that's very difficult role of theirs, because they are conductors of the role themselves, but sometimes they also resist and they also doubt, because training managers of all levels as to in the format of consulting as to how to drive home to the people about the changes, how to work with resistance, and what shall you do to stir their enthusiasm and not Italian strike or sadness. Sometimes they forget about it, thinking that if the middle management is very strong, everything will be okay, but very often it gets stuck at the lowest level. That's why this very important is the element of coaching for all management levels. So to continue what Marina said, very often the HR experts becoming psychologists, because me as this survival was the word that I used in transformation. The recent 15 years in Sibur, we're constantly in the transformation mode. 15 years of permanent changes underway. Not just local, but global changes. That's quite a burden or load on the psyche and resources of the people, because it's not final, it's not finite. And the role of the expert of training, maybe we should sometimes explain in very simple words as to what to do and to talk to the people. That's very important. Maybe that's not well noticed work, but still it creates the environment. I'm Natalia Tolstaya, and I'm from Amplua, a very different company from those who were talking now today about their transformation experience. We are doing for more than 20 years developing the market and training and development. We are not training anyone. We are developing the market and the interaction of providers, the customers, and we're trying to develop client or customer-provider relationships. So I would like to maybe look at this topic in a wider sense of the word, because we mentioned the aspects of training and development in major companies, but we're at the Gaidar Forum, and we are talking about what's going on in general in Russia. And also I noticed this SME business and the function of HR training. Well, number one is not the major companies where they have huge experience and have done so much by the people who are in front of us, but there are fields in Russia where they have this thing as a core one. And we discussed that yesterday for a public sector, and they were discussing as to how to develop and train the people operating or working in public sector. And there was a question about small and SME business. I think those are the two huge topics for Russia, where you have to reflect as to how to transform their function of training and development. Who's gonna do it for them? Because it's a huge field and area. Because of course we are not going to provide solutions now, because yesterday's discussion lasted for an hour and a half, but it was clear that it's a huge area. But it would be great for the function of the development and training to develop itself, to cover a wider picture, a wider area, and a bigger number of companies and businesses in Russia, in our country. I think that's very important, and I hope that with the help of all those present here and your and great practices of all the providers operating in the market, this will develop further in a very successful way. Well, today the word environmental already was mentioned, and Natasha is speaking about the echo effect. Well, it's a challenge because we are limited in our transformation with the environment not being so transformed. I think that's the next challenge. The program for contractors, for partners, that's what we are doing already. We are training our procurement, our procurers. We have an academy, a separate academy for training of all our procurers, the standards as to how to come to the platform, how to fill in the forms and the documents. And more so, we are bringing our production system to our providers, and that's our suppliers. And because for us, it's a certain criteria of reliability of quality, because if we speak the same language and we can have some smaller supply batches, well, that's I know that you and a number of other colleagues are doing it, but every time the scale, well, I know that there are colleagues who are training the executive authorities in their regions. And remember, one of my KPIs is to improving the level of school exams in the city of Tobolsk. Yes, the number of governors, coming from the Sibur teams, well, that's exactly what's going on. And it's clear that, and we are doing it, of course, not for top or major business, but for the SME business and whatever's related to universities. We're not talking about universities, but we do have corporate universities. Why do we have it? Because our system of education, unfortunately, cannot provide the competences, because they are changing once in 2 years. It's faster. Well, because it used to be once in 10 years. Now it's once in 2 years. And universities cannot cope. That's why we create corporate universities in our companies, because they're closer to us. And I think that everybody's back to all those good Soviet practices, creating chairs for themselves, tailor-made chairs, and we are training them for them when they join the company, not to be retrained for 18 months because that needs time. It's 1 million requirements for digitalization of specialists, but we don't have them. There are only 200,000. What shall we do to increase the number? And where are the professors? Where are the teachers? Who's going to teach them? So our main requirement to all our scientists, and they are doing this special chairs, and now we are we have 11 core universities, and that's a very far-reaching approach of our previous previous boss, Mr. Kirienko, we had to do it initially because, and then the question is to how to combine the corporate universities and to merge them with the education, well, our classical education. What shall they do? We will try a project when a student from, as of the third course, should spend some time in the company, and together with his manager, well, to be involved in a project. 2 days, well, sorry, but it was, well, it was a struggle that we had because it's quite a serious breakthrough as to when we wanted to take the student for 3 days to the company, and they were sort of not clear as to what, why we need it. Well, especially for digitalization, well, that's quite a serious challenge. And who's going to train those specialists? Who's going to impose the responsibility on himself? A couple of words about that. Natasha, as she said about public sector, and I have analyzed a very interesting thing. As well, I've been teaching for 20 years, and since the year 2000, I have about 30% and 60% of public companies and foreign companies, and now it's about the number split is about 20% of Western companies, used to be 95, and 20-25 of public sector. So it's shifting to this side. And the Bank of Russia 2 years ago, they were not our customers. No orders from them. So no, we have 15 minutes to go till 11. And number third question, we started to talk about it, is the requirements to the partners and those who are providers who help you to create your environment. And since we here, me, Volodya, and Marina, we represent the Commission on National Council on Accreditation of Training and Certification of Business Trainers, we wanted to mention a little bit for you to maybe express your views. Well, let me give the floor to Marina, and then maybe to get you involved in this discussion about the requirements to modern partners. So, colleagues, good morning. That's what I wanted to start talking about. It's a 10th anniversary of the Gaidar Forum. And our Commission on Accreditation also is celebrating 5th anniversary.
And we would like to say thank you very much to Andrea Afronin and members of the committee we're having today now. The achievements we have for this over these 5 years, we were able to prepare the regulations basis to create expert community and to create basis of certified business trainers in order to give them an opportunity to create the environment that we are all talking about today. We need to develop the whole market, supporting what Natalia said and Volodya said. We and the state companies who are here today with us are leaders in the market today, and the experience they have. So it should become, for the whole of Russia, it should become an example of how transformation can be prolonged, extended, enhanced across all regions. And as for the regulations basis, yesterday at the meeting of the Presidium, we adopted a package of documents for certification documents for business trainers. And now we have additional basis, and I invite all participants today to participate, to be part of our activities, because we want to continue discussing this subject and create a large professional expert community in order to make the whole process as fast and quick as possible to have transformation successful. So requirements towards partners and experience in partnerships, we articulated some good words to the experts here today in the panel. But who are the partners in education and training and transformation processes? Just a couple of words. Customization. Number 2, specificity. not just give general words, but be specific, be very precise to be useful. I think that's important. Another important thing is mobility and accessibility of our partners. Availability of our partners, companies and freelancers and people. And another important thing, ability to cooperate that we teach our people. When training companies, various providers, when they are ready to join, to pool their efforts for a large task and be integrated, not try and be the only leader for the company, that's very important. But going away from these general words, of course, people are the most important resource. And sometimes we do not just look at the name of a company, but people we know, with those who started the market here in Russia. And the thing is that we got together here today with the same idea. It means that it is important with whom you work when you tackle a specific task. Just one thing, Volodya gave his own overview of the evolution in the market, but I see over these 10 years, I see that I cooperate with my partners, competitors in the same platform. Sometimes you have projects where you have 5 or 10 providers, and they need to agree on how we work together, not to destroy yourself and your client. So cooperation in the market is indeed very important and relevant. And be humble. That's also a very important idea. So the regime of maximization of your ego, we should switch to a regime where everyone else can also have their voice. So this is very important in our area. How to give the voice to those we work with. So we should become sort of useless to give others their voice. So we have 3 providers in a project, and we ask them for a presentation, and our presentation we send it to you, and we now have a joint space with them, and we work together, and that's quite effective. And continuing, joining to what Mark said, the ability to create a network and cooperate with each other, and put your ego number 2, not number 1, not me but us. That's important. And also, colleagues from various companies, we should be able to use resources of each other and be able to sell services. And sometimes when new things come into the task, it is hard to set the diagnosis where to start with. And your experience and the number of corporate lives you live, that's important. And number 3, quality of experts. Natasha mentioned we respect it very much. Respect specific people, some specific people, but I would like to have more people like you in your teams around, because projects the number of projects is growing, and it is good to provide high quality, good services, and business cannot wait for us to come. And also integration, how you integrate internal expertise, not just to make it a product of a provider, but in-house product where you do not need a provider. Yes, this is also a very important practice. And another point, underestimated role, I think, your research experience and ability to bring in new things into the market and teach us how things can be done differently. And then we translate it together with you, or on our own. We translate this experience, these practices, to our internal customers. So I would like to agree to what Natalia said. It is great when you come in as experts and say, you can do it like this, you can have this new thing, we created this and that. So we want more experimentation from your side, research, new things, so to have this collaboration. And for us, we set up a new model of competences, a new model of a successful employee, critical thinking, communication, collaboration, and teamwork. And these are the things we want from you as well. Analyzing the whole thing. Could I imagine 5 years ago that before we start a project, we ourselves, we bring in experts, a round table of colleagues from Euras and Cibur from consulting companies. We make a round table and we discuss things and we ask questions. How do you do this and that? And this is a completely new mega trend. Why? Because previously, Welch, you need to be very agile and quick and be number one and do everything on your own. But it doesn't work like this today. Digitalization has changed business model so much that it is only in collaboration that you can create absolutely new product. Because now problems are so complicated and interrelated with other problems that you do not that one provider competences is not enough. So we also lack experts who are able to work and moderate very complicated issues and challenges. So he should be an expert in this subject, first of all, and he should also be a facilitator, moderator, and give us results. Yes, sometimes they're good facilitators, but they might lack expertise, or he's a good expert but a poor moderator. But we usually we take an expert from our side and take a facilitator from somewhere else. But this is a forced cooperation. But this is a mega trend indeed. So we covered much ground now, but collaboration, yes, it is a key point. There are not many projects, large-scale projects in large companies where just one provider provides everything. This ability to work with others, this is very important indeed. And I agree that we should not be afraid of experimenting and offering new solutions. L&D functions should change and providers should change. New technologies should be applied widely. And unfortunately, we often see that providers stay in the market for a long period of time and they offer the same over these years, and they do not monitor how their clients change. But those who change themselves and who stay in the trend, they have more chances for success. I think it is also important not to be afraid to transfer your technologies, not just say that this is a know-how, this is my thing, but in organizations I worked with, sharing technologies is very important. Projects, when we buy something, training our trainers and assessors, estimators, we buy technologies from providers, and it means that, yes, we will use it in-house, and this is a completely natural practice, but not all providers are so eager to give away their technologies. This is about well-developed technologies and know-how. And critical approach, yes, to criticize and offer alternatives and solutions that are used in other places, since famous providers have huge experience of working in various sectors, in various companies, and this is a good advantage. You can have a look at how people do things in other companies. Just a couple of words. Collaboration, yes, we need to find partnerships because you cannot tackle things on your own. Now, professionalism, yes, we buy a service from a provider and we hope that quality will be high in innovations. Yes, we want international practices, what might be good for you, and be proactive, not just sit and wait for a request, but offer solutions. You understand your clients, you know them quite well, and you might know what they need in the coming 2 or 3 years and offer them it. Ruslan, a question. Do you plan to share with departments of private and state banks your learning nuggets? I think yes. With one of our green subsidiary, we can have a look at potential options, and I think that Sberbank and central bank universities probably might be interested. So whose this question is, please approach me. We're open. We have an answer in English. Let's answer this question. So how cow models can be planned in a way that they are transparent on the level of on the bottom level of employees. Tatiana, please, you wanted to comment on that? So we touched upon it. We talked about the environment already during the conference of our managers. They decided that okay, fine, we will have a culture of truth, and we will give an opportunity to people to articulate what they think, to listen to their voice. This initiative started a significant, serious discussion among employees, and this is an opportunity of openly and transparently give feedback, and this is because of development of managers and the environment when you can have such added value. And I would like to also say a couple of words. Please announce what I wanted. Yes, I wanted to make an announcement. Yes, please, colleagues. Your ideas. Your opinion is very interesting. Rosatom is a strategic partner of World Skills Kazan 2019. Do you know what it is all about, World Skills? Yes, you know about the competition. It means our communications work well. So for our country, this is a very serious event, and we want to bring it to a completely new level. And apart from ministerial summit, when more than 60 countries, ministers of education will visit the site, and they will discuss preparation of talents, training of talents during the event. This is one of the obstacles for business development, obviously, and one of the main discussions is that competitiveness of a country, competitiveness of education means competitiveness of a country. That's quite important. And one of the new formats Russia is offering is Skills Summit, where on the level of heads of states and captains of business, they will discuss approaches towards transformation of the system of education and training and learning. And that's why, together with World Skills and our partners BCG, Boston Consulting Group, we start a new research where we will try and find a couple of models, several successful models for preparation and training of personnel, of talents, in order to have a health checklist for every country to be able to use it, or a corporation, depending on what archetype they belong to. So for them to check themselves and think about what practices they can use. And here we show the address and the link. We will publish our developments, our research, and we will be interested in your feedback. So yes, we will have this slide on the screen. Thank you, Tatiana. A question, Natalia, just a short answer to the question. We have various generations of people. Any peculiarities, any specificities? How do we work with various generations? We will live under the same umbrella in the coming 15 years, and this is a challenge for various companies, and it correlates with the previous question in English. First thing is that, I do not want to call them programs, but let's call them consciousness practices to understand why generation employees articulate their ideas, and sometimes they're very much different from those of X and Z generations, and how they express themselves. So the role of HR and also L&D functions, for us it is very important. Sometimes Japanese anime or Twitter language can go well. Sometimes it is just a good old newspaper that has been published for 40 years in a factory. Well, for some generations it is okay, but we need to bring people together and make them share ideas through consciousness programs and development of emotional intelligence. Probably it sounds too smart, but this is about just understanding each other. Natalia, anything from you? Yes, just a couple of words. I like this question about honesty. This intermodal program is not static. We develop it and we discuss our failures and successes. That's number one. Number two, on module 3, we combine it with the forum of vice presidents and key employees of the organization. And since we all have commitments, we suggest that our participants of training programs, we anonymously ask them for feedback, and also we vote for things they are talking about, and we also offer our commitments and say what we can really do. So this is a lively thing. We're not 100% successful in this. Sometimes we make step back. And thank you very much for this question for honesty, because we have so much information around us, and sometimes content is going away. The essence is very important. The meaning is very important. Thank you very much for your question. I think that also comparison with providers is important. If you are honest with him and say that this practice isn't working or what you do is not working effectively, and you are not afraid of leaking this information in the outer world. This is also an important point of being confident in working with providers. Thank you very much for your question indeed. So, colleagues, we will wrap up. And a couple of words about culture. When we speak about the role of culture in the process of transformation, transformation is transformation of culture. Transformation means transformation of culture, first of all. And we just wanted to ask you to put the final dot in our section. So your insights and takeaways from the previous from the session. Just 1 minute. You have cards, questions, and you can put any insight, any conclusion you make from the panel. We will read them out loud and wrap up our panel with that. So. Let's do it like this. Please write your comments and or listen to what colleagues say. So my name is Evgeny, and as Mark said, I'm among those who are not active now. I am retired now, but I worked for 25 years. I worked for an international company, and what I see today at the beginning of the panel, Andre. It's a disaster. 25 years ago, we had the same slides in Coca-Cola company. 25 years ago, the same slides in Coca-Cola. And I asked myself, are we still at the same level? Tanya, thank you very much. Rosatom, 25 years ago, was a very red tape, full of bureaucracy company, and Coca-Cola visited you for a license, and I was sending almost on my knees to get all the documents. We used Americi, an element in our recipe, and the whole process, bureaucratic process, was completely different. And now the role of the top managers and your role and how you changed the whole thing, I'm happy that so many changes happened. And changes in Sibur, yes, they are also very powerful, and she's a very experienced person. But what I want to say today, you never touched upon the future prospects during the panel. Andres, please understand this. Things you do in your company, Tatiana, we had it 10 years ago in Coca-Cola, and they instilled practice of working with every supplier and every client on the not just to sell and buy, but transfer and share your experience, and go not only to large companies, but also the mid-level in the HR department, talents department of Coca-Cola. There are a lot of people who changed their grade. And in the bank, the situation Andrei described, it is very good that you added this. It is great that you have such changes underway, so please be successful in this. Thank you very much. Thank you, Evgeny. Colleagues, please, let's wrap up. Evgeny, a very good comment indeed. But yes, there are changes, differences. Coca-Cola 25 years ago and today, and any other company. But yes, with all my due respect to international companies and their international practices, their experience, we all understand that you've accumulated great experience. Another thing to add, just a couple of years ago, HR pools, talents pools, yes, they existed. It's like in your closet you have a lot of clothes, but you do not have anything to wear. Now changes are huge, but Coca-Cola has been for 100 years in the business. I worked in British American Tobacco in the 90s. In 1996, I have a career plan for 10 years on, up until 2006. But all others did not know about anything like that. So your career plan obviously changed from that time and from that plan. So let's look at the main insights, 11 cards, please. Universities are open for cooperation. Resistance is good thing on your way. Thank you very much for your experience. Thank you for your insights. It was a great insight how Russian companies plan to create the feeling of involvement in their employees, not just through standard training sessions. So I hope that this is a good way, creative way to follow. So everything is very good, great. I'm a bit in a hurry. Learning nuggets is super good. Thank you very much, Natasha, for learning nuggets. Dana, I'm sorry. So it was perceived very well. Culture is everything. Central bank, huge surprise. Thank you very much. So now there is hope for transformation of business in Russia. Of course, it should go through transformation of working with HR personnel. No simple solutions. Educational organizations should work together with companies and develop programs. Important that classic universities and corporate universities should work together in L&D. And also culture of honesty is the good start for transformation. I think that very good final for our panel indeed. Thank you very much, dear friends. Thank you very much to all participants. Thank you very much, colleagues. We finish.